This is the Two Bald Guys Sports Podcast. Bald heads, bold takes. Now, here are your hosts, Adam and Tony.
Welcome back. I'm Adam.
I'm Tony.
Tony, it's kind of snuck up on us. I don't know if they're doing it a little bit earlier than they usually have, but the draft is just a few days away. We are a little bit behind. Life got in the way this week, so we're taping this on a Sunday. The draft starts on Thursday with the first round with your Raiders with the number one pick. I know we've talked a lot about the Raiders and what they should do. Everything's projecting as they will take Fernando Mendoza, Mel Kiper Jr., who's the resident NFL guy for ESPN. He says Fernando Mendoza. We've talked about it. How are your thoughts going in? We got about 4 days before the draft. What are your thoughts here with the Raiders? Final thoughts before this draft comes.
Yeah, we mentioned the Raiders and some, I guess you could call them theories or potential other things other than drafting Mendoza, that they were going to trade down and try to get Ty Simpson at 6 with the Browns or whoever. But you're right. Everything I'm looking at, it's Fernando Mendoza. I think that's the safest bet. The Raiders haven't had great luck at the first pick or even their first rounders for a long time. Mendoza, pick him up. He seems to be a safe bet. He's a smart guy. He has the build. He makes the throws. And I don't know if he'll be the starter this season upcoming at all, if he's going to sit behind Kirk Cousins and learn a little bit, or if Kirk struggles, does Mendoza have enough to get out there and play fairly quick? But all signs point, everything I read, whether it's Mel Kiper or anybody else, my Raiders are picking up Mendoza, and I think that's the way you have to do it. They have to get a quarterback in there that they can build around, because they have not had that since probably Derek Carr.
Right, and that was even a tough one there with Derek Carr. We talked about, was he really the guy you wanted? I know Kirk Cousins isn't going to be your guy. It's not going to be your guy, but I do like the pickup. You could do a lot worse with a quarterback than Kirk Cousins coming in if that's who you're going to decide to go with instead of, throwing Mendoza out there right off the bat. But, Mendoza coming in there, we talked about it. It's like a doppelganger with Kirk Cousins is kind of the same type of guy, right? It seems like a really good, I hate to say clubhouse because, there's not like a clubhouse in football, but a really good locker room guy, I guess, is what it is. He's not going to be, Mendoza probably runs a lot more than Kirk Cousins, but he's not a scrambler. But, accurate, will win games for you, good dude. So, I guess if you're wanting a guy to mentor Mendoza and kind of show him how to play the game, Kirk Cousins is kind of the right guy to do that. And I know Kirk Cousins wants to play. Listen, he seems like a guy that wants to start, but he's been in that backup role. And I think he understands what he is right now in his career. And he, sometimes it's okay to be a backup and just collect that money a little bit. And I think that's what he's going to do. So yeah, will the Raiders start Kirk Cousins or will they throw Mendoza out? I personally think you throw Cousins out there, but it's one of those tough things because his Cousins loses games, they're going to want, the fans are going to scream for Mendoza right away.
Well, yeah, and that's just it. If Kirk Cousins goes out there and we're not seeing any improvement in that offense, they've upgraded the offensive line a little bit because Geno Smith got sacked a lot last season. But if Kirk Cousins, like you said, if he's just losing games, let's put Mendoza out there. Let's see what he can do. Let's let him learn on the fly. Maybe we can, he can grow that way. That doesn't seem to be the best way to build up a quarterback. The Packers, I think, have shown that if you have a guy, sit him behind somebody who knows what they're doing and build them up. They've done it with Rodgers and Love, Brett Favre, all those great quarterbacks that they've had. They've sat behind people and they've built, and I think that's what they want to do here. But like you said, if they're losing games, what difference does it make at that point? Throw him out there. But I think you're right. I think he's not going to cause problems off the field. I think he's going to learn. He's going to do what he has to do. And the guy, he doesn't make mistakes. He doesn't throw interceptions. He doesn't make bad throws. I know it's college versus the NFL. It's a little bit different. Everyone's a little bit faster, and the schemes are a little bit more complicated on defense. But I think he's a smart kid. I think he's going to work, and I like him. I don't see any issues with him off the field or anything like that. So I hope Kirk Cousins works out. He's a veteran. He's been around the league. Teach this kid how to play quarterback in the NFL. We've got Tom Brady over there as well. He knows something about playing football at that level. So quarterback is, we got guys there that can help this kid out. Draft him, raise him up right, and hopefully he can be a quarterback of the future, and then the Raiders can start building around him. That's the goal.
Yeah, I definitely think, but I think it's one of those too. Like, if you're going to start Kirk Cousins, like, you almost need to come out, and they won't do this, but this is what I would be like. Like, Kirk Cousins is our starter, win or lose right now, for at least whatever you want to say, for at least like the first half of the season, or the first season, or whatever, unless injuries or it just goes so completely south. But I think it's almost like that'd be better if they made a statement like that and said, "Hey, listen, Mendoza's going to sit right now. We're not looking to bring him in. Even if we start losing some games here, because we need to build and he needs to learn." I think that could maybe smooth over the fans a little bit. And I don't know. To me, and I guess I was a Bears fan. We haven't been quite as bad as the Raiders, and no defense, as it has been. But like, if like last year when they made some well, they didn't make any, but this year they made some strides. But if they wouldn't have made the playoffs and won the division, if they would have made some strides, I think I would have been okay with it, because it's been so bad where you're like, okay, one more year, and now we're really looking into next year where, we can build some more stuff up, build the stuff in the draft, and then Mendoza comes in with a year under his belt, with the scheme, with all this stuff, and then you can do that. I think as a Raiders fan, I know you don't want another wasted year, but I think you'd be okay with it, understanding that you're a year away, instead of, are we 5 years away? Are we 6 years away? Because it really looks like if the Raiders do things right, they could be a year away. I'm not talking about Super Bowl, but competing for a playoff spot. And I think that's where you want to be, where, get Mendoza in the right spot. And now the Raiders can, have a chance to make the playoffs multiple years in a row, instead of throwing them out there right away. Because we've talked about it many, many times. David Carr got absolutely ruined by getting thrown in for the Texans right away and got sacked like 754 times. I may exaggerate a little bit. He was never the same quarterback after that. Like, he wasn't, and Caleb Williams, we even thought a little bit, because he got sacked a ton with the Bears. If you get sacked a lot, I don't care how good you are, you start to get happy feet. You start to get a little restless. You start to change things because you're a little bit afraid. And I would too. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
If I had some of these linemen breathing down my neck all the time, I'd be like, I'm getting tired of getting hit. Please stop. I think they need to approach it that way. So it's either one of two things. If you start Kirk Cousins, you almost got to be like, listen, this is Mendoza's year to just sit back and watch. And then maybe the fans won't sit there and clamor. They still will, because that's what fans do. But maybe they'll be a little bit more accepting if you guys lose some games with Kirk Cousins at the helm.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think if you see progress, I think that's, as a Raiders fan right now, we need to see progress. We need to see, maybe try to get to that 7-8 win mark. Maybe, 6 wins right now sounds pretty good. That sounds crazy, but 6 wins would be pretty good. But I'm hoping to try to get close to that 500 range. I'm not saying 9-8, maybe 8-9, but as long as they're making progress, as long as Kirk Cousins isn't running for his life, because like you said, he's going to start throwing interceptions, because instead of getting sacked, I'm just going to try to force a ball, and now it's going to get picked. And Geno Smith threw a lot of interceptions. He got sacked a lot. But I do trust Kirk a little bit better than Geno. I do trust that the offensive line has been built up a little bit more this year. There's weapons out there. They have a solid running back. This new coach, I'm kind of hesitant on him because he is new. But, man, your new coach in Chicago worked out pretty well. So I'm hoping the Raiders can get lucky like that. I'm not saying, AFC Championship game like you said, but like maybe we can just see some progress with Kirk Cousins for a year, and then slowly work into Mendoza being the franchise guy, pick a few people up in trades or the draft, and who knows, maybe in this 3-year range here, the Raiders can actually be a competitive team that I want to sit down and watch all 4 quarters of, because it's been a long time since I've watched all 4 quarters of a Raiders football game, because usually it's just not fun by the 4th quarter.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I'm just going to go back to it. I know you don't want to lose this year, but if there's some light at the end of this tunnel, it starts to be a little bit more bearable. Like, like right now, if you're a Jets fan, like, what are you really looking forward to, right?
Oh my gosh, Geno Smith again?
Geno Smith is now back at quarterback. We've seen this before. They did this before. Like, there's not really that light at the end of the tunnel for the Jets right now. So, like, you sit at some of those teams and it could be bad. They're like, what are we really doing? I think the Raiders finally look like they have a plan in place, and maybe it's because Tom Brady's there a little bit, because he knows how to build a team, or, he helped build a team or whatever. I don't know what it is. I don't know if Davis is listening to him or whatever, but they have a plan. It looks like they finally kind of have a plan. And, do they now keep, oh my gosh, your defensive end guy that I wanted for so bad? Max Crosby. Do they finally keep him, which it looks like they might do? And, now all of a sudden you're like, okay, we're building towards something. So I think you do. I think at this point, if they would have traded the first pick, they would have done it by now. I think all eyes are pointed on them taking Mendoza. And then it's like, okay, now the draft really starting with 2, which is the New York Jets. Right now, Mel Kiper has them taking an outside linebacker. Sure. The defense needs help. I would think the offense needs help.
Yeah,
but
like where you go with the
I don't know. I mean, call me crazy. I guess he's from Texas Tech, offensive outside linebacker. I'm sorry. I don't know a lot about him, but if I'm the Jets, I'm thinking I need some skilled players. I don't know.
Well,
maybe, but
brings some excitement. Other than, I'm sure you're going to linebacker, but bring excitement there with a skill player. You know what I mean? So, I'm looking at a couple different guys. Obviously, Mel Kiper, and then there's another guy that I found, the Steve Palazzo or something like that. He has the Jets taking a linebacker, but not the one that Kiper does. They haven't taken Harvell Reese, the linebacker out of Ohio State.
Okay, Ohio State, yeah.
So that's 2 different guys saying that the Jets are going to take a linebacker. So I'm with you. Take somebody like maybe a Jeremiah Love or a Mekhi Lemon, somebody that's going to maybe get some excitement going up there at the Jets, because a linebacker is not going to help them do much at all.
Yeah, I don't know what their plan is there, but I mean, listen, I know Reese is really, really good. Obviously, I watched him. Unfortunately, just cause havoc against Michigan and other teams. But Bailey, I'm guessing, is really, really good also. Like I said, I haven't, I'm not into the defense as much of Texas Tech. But the Jets and the Cardinals, that's who they have taken. At least Mel Kiper does, is David Bailey and Harvell Reese, either way, right? I don't know. Like, the Cardinals and the Jets, like, if you're their fan base right now, not that you take a guy just to make a splash and make fans feel good, but don't you want something more than those guys are probably going to be very good players. I'm not trying to say they're not going to be very good players, but are they game changers? Are they franchise changers? And I don't think they are. And maybe they just don't think there's a guy out there to do that. But like, you need something else, I think. And I don't know, maybe that's just me. Like, Tennessee Titans, they have Mel Kiper has them taking Jeremiah Love with the running back Notre Dame. If I'm the Titans, I'm getting excited about that. Jeremiah Love was really, really good in Notre Dame, and that gives you an offensive guy. Like, I know not everybody needs offense right off the bat, but like the Cardinals and the Jets didn't scare you on offense last year. So like, they need offensive guys, right?
Right, exactly. I mean, Carnell Tate from Ohio State, the wide receiver, he's out there. He's pretty darn good. He's probably going to go top 10, so I don't think picking him higher up is going to make much of a difference. But take Cardinals, take Carnell Tate. Why not? And I thought when, toward the end of the college football season, Carnell Tate, I don't know if his draft stock has dropped a little bit, but I thought he was maybe projected to go top 5, but he's kind of dropped down there a little ways. But man, you're right. I like the Jeremiah Love pick for the Titans at 4. Like you said, it's going to bring some excitement. He's got a lot of talent, Jeremiah Love does. Like, he's really, really good. If he's healthy and ready to go, which I think he is, the Titans with their new quarterback, Cam Ward, coming off a rookie season, which wasn't awesome, but he wasn't totally garbage either. But the Titans are at least building, and they have some stuff going on there. Now you got a Cam Ward, an explosive type quarterback that can run. You got Jeremiah Love coming in. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm excited for the Titans because now their fan base can watch a couple guys who are young and really have some talent.
And look at those really nice uniforms that they just put out.
Look good too. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I'm going to take a sidebar from the draft for a second. There was 2 of the teams, because I like uniforms so much. There was 2 of the teams that announced new uniforms this year. Just recently, that was the Los Angeles Rams and the Baltimore Ravens. And in case you didn't see their new uniforms, it's okay because they look almost exactly like they came. Like, I don't understand. Like, I'm not saying do a total rebrand. Like, the Rams got rid of their gradient, which is good. But besides that, it looks exactly the same. And the Ravens, I can't tell you what they changed. But they announced these new uniforms and had all this story. I'm not saying they needed to change anything. But, like, at that point, what are you really changing? What are you really doing that is so exciting? It's like, I think you have to keep the same uniforms for, like, at least 3 years or something like that. So it's almost like they're like, well, done with the 3 years. Let's move on and do something different. So, that was my little tangent for a second. So you don't need to look it up. You don't need to look it up. They look like if they ran out in the field next year, you're going to be like, that they changed their uniforms. Nope. Yeah, but they're the same. The Titans did. The Titans are really
the Titans.
Listen, Yeah, right, exactly. So if Mel Kiper's right, he has Caleb Downs going fifth, he has Sonny Styles going sixth, and he has Carnell Tate going seventh. Okay. Now, if that happens, and I hate, and we all know this if you listen to this, I hate with a fiery passion of the Ohio State Buckeyes. I do. I really, really do. But if Mel Kiper is right, that would be 4 Ohio State guys picked in the first 7 picks.
Yes. Yes. That team is loaded. People don't realize
that is ridiculous, and they didn't even make it to the semifinals.
I think Ryan Day needs to be criticized a little bit more because, I get it. You won the national championship a couple years ago, but that team was loaded with talent this past season, and they underperformed really bad. Don't get me wrong. I think Miami had a good team, and I was rooting for Miami, as you were as well. But, man, you had, like you said, how many first-round, not just first-round, top 10 picks, and you couldn't win, at least make it to the national championship game? Yeah, they underperformed. Coaching. I'm going to blame coaching on that.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like if that's true, that's ridiculous. Like 4 in the top 7, and the Ohio State fans are going to be like, "Hey, look, we got 4 guys in the top 7." Yeah, that's cool. Where's your national championship for that? Because you're right. Like they were good. They were really, really good. Indiana was good, and I think Indiana could have beat Ohio State again. But let's be honest, they were benefited from Ohio State missing some field goals in the Big Ten championship game. So, Miami got hot, and that's what happens. You get these tournaments, and sometimes that's what happens. But yeah, 4 guys in there. Washington Commanders are the ones that are projected to pick Carnell Tate, according to, again, I'll say Mel Kiper Jr. That's interesting for the Commanders because will Jaden Daniels be healthy? Like he was obviously very, very good in his first year. Last year, I said prove it. He really wasn't proving it, and he got hurt a lot. I think that is the fear with Jaden Daniels is can he stay healthy because of the way he plays? He plays like Lamar Jackson does. He's very, very elusive. He runs the ball. He does a great job of extended plays. He's I think he's more accurate than Lamar Jackson is. But when you extend plays, you don't have to be the most accurate person in the world because sometimes you guys just end up wide open. But it does open you up to get hit a lot. So. Does Carnell Tate put him in there because they have Deebo Samuel, and I think they have somebody else in there, and I can't remember. There's another receiver in there for the Commanders that
Terry
I forget. But
Scary Terry McLaurin.
Oh yeah, Terry McLaurin was the receiver, so he's back in there. So, is that the right way to go? Zach Ertz was their tight end. Not sure if he's going to come back. I guess they do. I mean, Deebo is kind of your all-around guy. Terry McLaurin was more of your outside guy. So does Carnell Tate give their outside guy? I mean, hey, you could do a lot worse with that receiving core if that's the decision that the Commanders decide to take.
Oh, right. I mean, but if I'm the Commanders, I think that offense was pretty good. When Jay, like you said, when Jaden Daniels was healthy, that offense was pretty good. Made it all the way to the NFC Championship game. So, man, taking a wide receiver seems a little bit, I'm not going to say crazy, but I feel like maybe they could use a little help on defense. And if Carnell Tate, I guess, is off the board, do you see them taking like a Ruben Bain or somebody like that from Miami instead of going there? Because I see that Carnell Tate might even be going to the Chiefs if he's still available. And we don't need that to happen because the Chiefs don't need another explosive player like that. But I'm just kind of surprised the Commanders wouldn't go defense because I thought their offense was pretty solid. Like you said, if Jaden Daniels doesn't get protection, he's going to run around, or if he's not healthy, I don't think all the Carnell Tates in the world are going to help that.
Right. Yeah, sorry. We talk about it like just a second ago. The Jets, we think they need more offense than defense. I think it's the opposite direction for the Commanders. I think they need more defense. But you're right. Like, I mean, he has Caleb Downs going to the Giants, and then he has Sonny Styles going to the Cowboys. But yeah, Ruben Bain Jr., the defense, really good defensive end, scary dude from Miami. And not scary like as in a person, scary as a defender. Like, oh my God, he's really good. It's still available. I don't know. I think as a Commanders fan, yes, Carnell Tate, very good. Obviously, offense is what's the sexy part of the game, defenses. But what do they always say? Defense wins championships, right? Defense has got to do it for you. And do you pass up on a Ruben Bain Jr. if you're the Commanders in that spot if he drops to you?
Yeah, because I don't think they're dying for wide receiver help at all. I think their wide receiver room is pretty solid. I mean, it's not the best in the league, but it's solid enough. I don't think you need to add Carnell Tate more than you need to add somebody on defense. And I'm not saying take Ruben Bain, but if he's on the board at that spot, man, I think it'd be really hard to look at my defense and go, wow, we could have Ruben Bain as a rusher. Or do we go with another wide receiver who's going to be good, but like, I just think Ruben Bain impacts the game more than Carnell Tate will for the Commanders. And I think, like you said, they need a little bit more help on defense than they do offense. But offense sells the tickets. I mean, people want to see touchdowns and big plays. So who knows what are they thinking? Ticket sales, or are they thinking like, could we stop teams with a nice pass rusher?
That's the other thing. It's like, yeah, do we get more help for Jaden Daniels so he doesn't have to think he has to do it on his own, or do you get the defense that supports it just in case because of if he does get hurt, I don't know if Marcus Mariota is going to be their backup or whatever, but yeah. So, I mean, Mel Kiper Jr. is doing this, so we have, as we look through this a little bit, it's surprising to me because I've looked through this first round and the only quarterback to be picked in the first round is Francisco Mendoza, according to, like I said, again, Mel Kiper Jr. And just even, sorry. He has Ty Simpson going to the Cardinals at 30. So that's the third to last pick. He has them going to 30. So 2 quarterbacks in the first round. I mean, how often – that just shows you how bad the quarterback class is this year, because how often do we see – it's almost like the fantasy drafts, right? We talk about it. One guy takes a quarterback, then everybody starts taking quarterbacks, right? One guy takes the best running back, then all of a sudden you get like 4 running backs in a row. It's like, that slide of players that just kind of go right away, right? It seems like it's been like that in the NFL here in the recent drafts, where if a guy takes a quarterback, it's like, oh my God, we can't wait, which was a little shocking how, Shedeur Sanders fell so far last year. We have our opinions about that. That's, we could talk about that more later, but it's almost like they overhype these quarterbacks because it's like they're just scared, and then what happens is these guys aren't ready. They're getting first round money. They're not ready. They're throwing them out there. They continue to not be ready. And then all of a sudden you're drafting another quarterback 2 years later. I think it's are people really seeing it this year and be like, you know what? They're just not those guys that year. So we're not going to waste our chance, our quarterback pick at that. Let's get something else that we need. And then if we struggle again next year, hopefully there's a quarterback in the draft that we can take next year.
Yeah, you're right. Like usually it's offense. And I'm just going offensive players. Other than a couple of wide receivers, it's a lot of defensive players right now with those guys from Ohio State and Texas Tech, the linebackers, and Downs from Ohio State, the cornerback, and Ruben Bain, and like just these guys on defense. And there's a few offensive tackles in here, but there's an LSU cornerback in here. So there's a lot of defensive players, I feel like, more than usual, opposed to like quarterbacks and running backs. I mean, is Jeremiah Smith the only running back available right now that really anybody's looking at, or does nobody really need running backs anymore? Because, man, a few years ago, it was like, I felt like every other pick was, a running back or a quarterback. Like, those 2 were the huge picks. Now you got maybe 2 quarterbacks in the first round, and I'm still looking for another running back, but I don't see one. It's just Jeremiah Love is the only running back so far in the first round, which is actually crazy to think of.
Yeah, well, Mel Kiper Jr. does have one in the last pick, Jadarian Price, which is running back from Notre Dame, which would be funny because the only 2 running backs to be taken in the first round would be from Notre Dame, like both of those. And I looked at the second round because you put a second round out there. I only see, unless I'm missing something, I only see one other running back, and that's the guy from Arkansas, which is surprising me because I never heard of him. And I'm not saying he wasn't good, but I just didn't stand out. But I'm looking through these 2 rounds, and like even the second round, according to Mel Kiper Jr., I mean, 3/4 of the picks are defensive guys. Like, so I don't know. And the running back, it surprises me a little bit because I think people or teams are figuring out, and maybe it's figured out for a while. You can't just have just one guy. You can't, I think the days of Adrian Peterson or Chris, oh my gosh, the guy that was at the Titans, Chris Johnson, or even guys like that, even McCaffrey is a little going away from it a little bit. You can't run your guys. You can't run one guy all the time anymore. Like, it just doesn't work. They run down so quickly, and people were like, the shelf life on running backs are like 3-4 years, and most of them were. You talk about, like, some of these guys are really good, but now I think they're trying to extend their thing. Like, you talk about David Montgomery. He's been able to. I thought he was really good. I wish the Bears would have got rid of him, but he's really been able to fall into that. I know he got traded to the Texans, but now he's going to be. It looks like a two-headed monster there too. But you need this two-headed monster, and I think that works really well because even if they're both fast, even if they're both bruisers, it gets them a break, and you're not running that running back out there, for 40 plays. He's not rushing the ball 30 times. You might have one game where he might get in the 20s rushing because he's really going off, or you just need him, that game, and you're like, that's the guy we trust. But for the most part, you're talking about 15 to maybe 20 carries a piece, if that, but you're probably 10 to 15 more likely. So it surprises me a little bit, but maybe they're just say we're going to find value later. I know the Bears got Kyle Monangai from Rutgers in like the 7th round last year, and he ended up being a really good two-headed monster with who we had there for I am drawing blanks on all sorts of names right now. But I think that double-headed running back is what teams need to do. So maybe they're just thinking we can find that value later.
I mean, that's a good point because, like you said, it's almost like, I don't want to use the word load management, like NBA load management, but you're right. The shelf life on running backs is so short. If you're running them 25, 30 times a game, you might get 2 good seasons out of them, and then they just are so beat up and beat down that they're not the same. So maybe they're trying to extend the life of their solid running backs. Maybe try to drag that out to 5-6 years, cut the rushes in half maybe. That might be a really good point because I'm still going through this list and there's just not a whole lot of running backs. There's only a couple tight ends out there. Usually when we see a tight end from Iowa or Penn State, like when I think of tight ends, I think of Iowa and Penn State. Like those seem to be, in recent years, big programs with great tight ends that come out and do good things. And I'm not seeing anybody from the tight ends from Iowa or Penn State are definitely not there. And there's only a couple of tight ends out there. Vanderbilt just happens to be one of them that popped up on the list. But the running backs are low. But like you said, if they're going to pick up running backs, they can get them in the later rounds. So they're going for defensive players and offensive linemen, which it makes sense. I mean, you build from the interior and then, you work your way out a little bit unless there's that guy that just sticks out that you have to have the running back or the wide receiver that are just phenomenal athletes, but you're just not seeing a ton of it. It's all defense. It's all offensive linemen with a skill player sprinkled in here or there. And I think you make a good point. Running backs, let's try to extend their life a little bit and cycle them in and out. At least have 2 solid guys, maybe even a third guy in there. So I think you make a great point on that. We're trying to extend the life of, do some load management for the running backs, which it makes sense these days.
So you said it twice, and this is going to be my talk of NBA because we don't talk about NBA here. We've talked about this. About this, okay?
I should have said that.
The load management for a running back isn't that they don't play in games; it's that they don't get hit as much. And having a guy that is like having a reserve in basketball, where a guy can come in and give you some time off, right? Plus, you can say what you want. Okay, yeah, you play 82 games. You're playing maybe 3-4 games in a week. I get it a little bit. It can be tough, but I don't know. Don't get me started because you're getting paid to play a game. Listen, whatever you want. Running backs get absolutely crushed all the time. All the time. Like if you're running the ball and you're running through the tackles, you're going to get crushed. If you bounce it outside, sometimes you get crushed. Sometimes you run outside. So the load management on a running back makes absolutely a lot of sense. The load management in the NBA can go fly a kite because, like, I can't get there. I can't understand it. Like, and honestly, if you talk to most running backs, I bet they would want to be out there more. But if you told them, listen, this is why we're doing it. We're trying to get more years out of you. That makes sense. Like I can't go anymore because I'm going to get mad about the NBA. But
you clarified our definition of load management for football versus NBA. They're sitting games out. The running backs, instead of 30 carries, they're only going to get 18 this week. They're only going to get crushed 18 instead of 30.
Exactly.
They're playing more games too these days. So,
right. So,
that's a good point. Good point. Load management.
We'll go there. We'll go there. All right. So with the draft coming up, and I know we're not these draft gurus, we like to talk about, some of these position players, especially on offense, and what we think, should they go defense, offense. We don't analyze the college players as much as some of these other podcasts and stuff like that. But what does happen with the draft is always what if? What if we drafted somebody here? What if we did this? And it always, I think probably the biggest one that would come up in the NFL would be what if Tom Brady, people knew what he was going to be before he got drafted and didn't fall away to the 7th pick to the Patriots. If Tom Brady doesn't go to the Patriots, right? The Patriots aren't what does Bill Belichick. Like, we can really expand on this one. I think Bill Belichick's a very, very good coach, but he failed at a lot of places, and he failed after Brady, right? If Tom Brady doesn't fall to the 7th round to the Patriots, does Bill Belichick end up being the coach that we thought he was? I think that's a big what if. What do you think?
No, that's a great point. I mean, the whole situation involving Tom Brady being such a late draft pick, and then the way that he got into the game, Drew Bledsoe gets hurt, and then Tom Brady had to come in. Not because he earned his spot over Drew Bledsoe, it's because he's the backup. He goes in, and then Bledsoe never saw the field with him again. But you're right. What if people knew more about Tom Brady, or somebody saw something in Tom Brady that nobody else did, and he doesn't go to the Patriots? Now you have another team that may or may not have run off a bunch of Super Bowls. But I don't know. I think it was just a perfect combination of Bill Belichick, his personality, his defensive mind. Because Tom Brady, if you look, always had a pretty darn good defense to work with as well. I think they were always top 15 or something in the league. So you had Belichick working the defense, and Tom Brady, he ran that offense. And you had some good offensive coordinators. I think it was just a good mix. So Tom Brady goes somewhere else. I'm not sure either one of them. I don't think 7 Super Bowls are in Tom Brady's bag right now. Maybe a couple, but I don't think 7. I think that was just a perfect combination, unfortunately, for the rest of us who are not Patriots fans.
We see, and we could probably go the other way. What happens if Tom Brady got drafted by the Jets or something like that, right? Does he turn into who he was? He was obviously very good, but he needed that chance to go. And then whatever his drive was, I don't know if he had that drive. I'm sure he did. If he had that drive before he got in the game when, Bledsoe got absolutely annihilated by the Jets, would he have been that guy? Because we've talked about this, what if, David Carr doesn't get drafted by the Texans, because he was a fantastic quarterback at Fresno State coming out. People thought he was a can't miss prospect because the Texans gets ruined because he gets sacked 500 times. What happens what happens if Ben Roethlisberger gets drafted in the top, I think, 10 that he thought he was going to, instead of falling to the Steelers? I think the Steelers were the perfect spot about Ben Roethlisberger, which, again, we said we don't talk about Ben Roethlisberger, but we'll bring that up for a second. What if that guy doesn't? I think those are some big what ifs, and that's just the quarterbacks.
Well, yeah, you can go. There's so many what ifs. Tom Brady is a big one. But you're right. I just think, Drew Bledsoe with the Patriots, so they weren't a bad football team. They were still, I think, competing in the playoffs and things like that, because Drew Bledsoe wasn't that bad. It was just Drew Bledsoe went out, Tom Brady came in, and the rest is history. But I'm just looking through some other what-if stuff. What other what-ifs did you have? I know you have one other what-if you want to talk about. Sure.
Yeah, there's one that I have to bring up, and it's just because of the Bears, because I forget the year it was, whatever. The Bears had the 3rd pick in the draft. They traded up one spot. One. Not 2, not to the number 1 pick, 1 spot to number 2. I still don't understand this draft unless they just really thought that somebody else was going to trade to number 2, right? That'd be the only reason. That has to be the only logical reason why you would trade 1 spot up, right?
Right, because you're trying to steal it from somebody else. Yeah.
Right. So they trade up to number 2. Cool. Yeah, we're going to get this great pick, right? They didn't call me, not we. The Chicago Bears drafted Mitch Trubisky, who I think started a grand total of 10, maybe 12 games in college football at North Carolina. He was good at North Carolina, but he wasn't this can't-miss prospect. We draft Mitch Trubisky. Now, after Mitch Trubisky, the first one, I'm glad they didn't pick. That was Deshaun Watson, who was great for a few years, and then he got into all kinds of trouble, a horrible person, all this stuff. That's not the one I'm really worried about. A little bit later, they drafted the Kansas City Chiefs drafted this guy out of Texas Tech named Pat Mahomes. The Bears could have had Patrick. Well, there's a bunch of people that could have had Patrick Mahomes. Now, this isn't like Tom Brady going in the 7th pick and he kind of surprised a lot of people. I think Patrick Mahomes surprised a few people because, he was at Texas Tech. How good was he really? We didn't know. But that was right there. It's like the Portland Trailblazers selecting Sam Bowie instead of Michael Jordan, right? They could have easily taken him, and you knew he was going to be good or pretty well. Michael Jordan was probably a different story, but the Bears had. I mean, did they really look at Mitch Trubisky and think, you know what, he's better than Patrick Mahomes? So I guess my what is if Patrick Mahomes goes to the Bears, is he as good as Patrick Mahomes is right now? And did the Bears won a Super Bowl since?
Yeah, that's tough because I would say Deshaun Watson, out of those three quarterbacks, he had the better college career. I believe he won a national championship
at Clemson.
At Clemson. So he had the better college career. And you're right, Patrick Mahomes, obviously we've seen what he's done in the NFL, but in college, he played for Texas Tech. Texas Tech had quarterbacks, a lot of quarterbacks throw up a bunch of yards, and they never, like Graham Harrell comes to mind.
The
coach for the Cardinals, or he was the coach for the Cardinals.
Kingsbury.
Boy, he was outstanding at Texas Tech, just throwing for 1,000,000 yards. So I looked at Patrick Mahomes, and I'm like, okay, here's another Texas Tech quarterback who throws for 1,000,000 yards because he plays at Texas Tech, and it's different, and he's not going to do anything. So I don't fault the Bears for looking and going, you know what, I think we need this Patrick Mahomes guy. I kind of thought maybe they would take Deshaun Watson at the time because he did look like the better pick. But yeah, the Mitchell Trubisky pick is kind of, you're trading up to get Mitchell Trubisky is kind of weird. If the Bears get Mahomes, though, who 2017, I think this happened. Who was the coach? Was it the guy that just left?
It might have been Fox.
Does Patrick Mahomes succeed under that guy, or are we seeing that Patrick Mahomes succeeding because, again, Andy Reid is really good? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think Patrick Mahomes is great.
Absolutely.
But I just think you got to have the combination of it. But it would have been fun we can look back now and be like, man, Patrick Mahomes in a Bears uniform, that would have been awesome. But I don't know if it would have worked out quite the same. I just feel like Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, they got it figured out over there in Kansas City, unfortunately.
Yeah. So we go with that, and let's just talk. Let's expand it a little bit. Let's go to the what ifs in just football in general. And we'll just talk NFL right now. We've been talking about NFL this whole time. I think there is what ifs, kind of what we just talked about right now. Okay, one, what if Drew Bledsoe doesn't get annihilated by that Jets guy on the sideline and basically have a collapse lung, he goes out. But the other one is, what if not Drew Bledsoe, what if Bill Belichick actually stayed with the Jets and didn't quit on him after 2 days and go to the Patriots? Like, what happens if those two things, like, let's just start with Bill Belichick. What happens to the Patriots if he doesn't go there? Like, I mean, are the Jets good? Does he turn the Jets around, or are the Patriots any good?
Well, I mean, Belichick was at Cleveland with Nick Saban as well, and the Browns, and they weren't any good. So I think like Belichick's a great coach, but I think there's just only so much you can do there with the Jets. I think he would just have been a mediocre team, mediocre coach for years, maybe passed around to other teams. Who knows? He quit, got fired. And you're right, Drew Bledsoe, at the Patriots, like I said, they weren't a bad football team. They were going to make the playoffs. There's no way they do what they have done if Drew Bledsoe does not get injured. Tom Brady might have got traded. He might have sat back up for a couple more years and got traded. And then who knows what would happen, because we saw what happened when he went to Tampa Bay. He ended up winning another Super Bowl. So there is something special about Tom, like him or not. He has some things figured out. So, man, the course of the NFL record books and history would have been completely different if you're talking two things don't happen. Drew Bledsoe don't get hurt, Bill Belichick stays with the Jets. Crazy. I don't think the Jets win a Super Bowl, though.
Yeah, right. I mean, all those things. I mean, you think about the things that had to happen for this Patriot dynasty to happen. I'm going to bring up one more what if, and you're going to not like it. Yeah. So we had what if. I mean, it started with Belichick basically spurning the Jets after taking the job after 2 days. And then it's Tom Brady falling to the 7th round and them just, taking a flyer on him. Drew Bledsoe, which again, we never hope anybody gets hurt, absolutely getting destroyed. Okay. But then you have the tuck rule game, the fumble game. If that's called a fumble, the Raiders win. The game was over. The Raiders recover that ball. The game is over. If the Patriots don't win that game, do they have their dynasty? Like, is it the same? Because they finally got over that hump. They got that, they made it to the Super Bowl. They won the Super Bowl. We all know once you do it once, it's so much easier to do it again. It's not saying it's easy to do it twice. I'm just saying it's easier to do it once you've done it one time, right? And they did it, and then they continue to do it. So, like, it's amazing if you really look back at the things that had to happen for the Patriots dynasty to get going. Listen, the Chiefs dynasty got going because they drafted Patrick Mahomes and he turned out to be an all-world player. That's about it. There wasn't any other like really luck in that, right? I mean, because he's had to go through some good teams. He's had to go through the Ravens. He's had to go through, Josh Allen, the Bills. There wasn't a lot of luck in that. The Patriots had like 4 things that had to happen for their dynasty to happen. And it's one things it's almost like 50-50 things on every one of them. It's not like they just needed to win this game and they were favored, 90% of the people thought they were going to win, right? There was a lot of things that were like 50-50 things, and they all happened for the Patriots. All of them.
You know what? I never thought about that, but you're right. Let's start with Belichick leaving the Jets and going to the Patriots. That's one. They draft Tom Brady in the 100th round, whatever pick you. I mean, it was like the last pick of the entire draft almost. Like they draft this guy out of Michigan who wasn't even really a full-time starter in Michigan.
He wasn't great at Michigan. He was good, but he wasn't great.
He technically does have a national championship, but he was sitting the bench.
He does. Yes, he does.
But anyway, so he's a backup guy to Drew Bledsoe, who's a solid quarterback. They win games, but boom, Drew Bledsoe gets hurt. Here comes Tom Brady. Then you're right, the tuck rule. Eliminate the tuck rule. Raiders win that. John Gruden with the Raiders. If they go to the Super Bowl, they probably win that Super Bowl. And who knows, my Raiders might have had 2 or 3 in a row instead of the dynasty that started the Patriots. My Raiders could have been the one because John Gruden might not have ever left. They could have built on that. They were a good football team then. So they probably would have won the Super Bowl that year. The next year they could have done the same. Like, it just makes me sick because I feel like the Raiders, that was their window there recently that they had a chance to make a run, and it kind of all fell apart. I don't think Gruden leaves. I think there's so many things. Gruden leaves, goes to Tampa Bay, then he wins one with Tampa Bay. Like a whole mess of stuff just happened, all because Belichick decides to go to the Patriots and draft Tom Brady in the 6th or 7th round, whatever it was. Unreal.
I think that is without a doubt the biggest combination of what ifs in the history of the NFL. Like overall, like just
so many things had to happen.
Overall, so many things had to happen for the Patriots to go on a run like that, and they did. And you do that. But yeah, we'd be remiss to not bring up one more. I think the biggest what if just for a player in the history of the NFL has to be, and I think you know where I'm going. It has to be Bo Jackson 100%. Getting hurt on that run, 100%. Right? It has to be.
Yeah, 100%. What if Bo Jackson doesn't? Basically, his hip goes out of socket and then gets popped back in. What if he stays healthy? Unbelievable. Yeah. Not just football, baseball too. He could have been maybe a Hall of Famer in both of those sports because he was that good. He was that ridiculously good. That is the biggest what if, and I think I'm trying to think of one in all of sports, but I don't think one that comes to mind that would top that one because that guy was.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we have other ones for different sports. I mean, we could bring things up for like as a Cubs fan, what if Mark Pryor doesn't get hurt? What if Chris Bryant, Steve Bartman, all this. There's a whole bunch of them with the Cubs, but I think NFL wise, now I'm not trying to say he would have been the best running back ever, but he would have been pushing it. He would have been darn close. Like he was a freak. He was an absolute freak. That dude was one of the best athletes I've ever seen. And obviously, we can go in different things. We can go like the swimming with Michael Phelps and then different things. Obviously Mike Tyson and all these people are very, very good athletes. But Bo Jackson was one of the best athletes in the history of sports. Like he was ridiculous. And the things he was doing were were crazy, like things you just can't think that you can do as a human being. Like, and he was doing it like it was nothing. And if it's a shame that he got hurt like that because, I mean, you want to be like, well, if he was just a little bit slower, maybe the guy doesn't pull him down like he does, but or if he wasn't strong enough to kind of run through that tackle and then the guy pulls him down, like it's just, and he was with the Raiders for that, so I know that really doubly hurts you for it. But like that guy was amazing, like unbelievable, without a doubt. the biggest what if for a player that I can think of in the NFL ever.
I mean, he had it all. He had size. He had speed. He was like 6'1", 230, running a 4.1 40. His first ever hit in a major league game was a ground ball to second base, and he beat it out because the second baseman had no idea how fast he was. It was a routine play. The second baseman didn't bobble it, threw it to safe. And it's not even really close. Like, if you get a chance, if any listeners, you watch that 30 for 30 for Bo Jackson, and you'll see how much of a freak athlete he was. He just showed up, and he did stuff. He was just that guy.
Some of the play, like the throws he made from the outfield.
Oh my gosh.
And it's just ridiculous. Like, I mean, listen, if you want to talk about like running backs, like the best running back, and I'm not just going to go with the amount of yards. I mean, the best running back, and that's the other thing is, and if you want to go, I mean, we could do this what if story all day long, but if you want to talk about the best running back that I've ever seen, like just as a running back, would have to be Barry Sanders, right? I mean, just the way he moved and everything like that. And that would be the bigger, and there's no way this could have been swapped. Emmitt Smith, very, very good running back, one of the best ever. We understand that, rushing leader, all that stuff. If you put Emmitt Smith behind the Lions line and you put Barry Sanders behind the Cowboys line, Barry Sanders runs away with the all-time rushing record, and I don't think it's close because that dude was an absolute freak. But as good as Barry was, and he was a better running back because he had better moves, Bo Jackson as an athlete was better.
Just overall athlete.
Like he just was better. Like he was ridiculous. But Barry Sanders, and I know the Lions got to be thinking about the what ifs. They literally had two guys retire from the football instead of playing with them again. And they were two of the best players at their position ever, with Chad Johnson and Barry Sanders. So as a Lions fan, you got to be thinking the what if those guys stick around or we put a team around them. Can you imagine Barry Sanders and Calvin Johnson with the team they have right now?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, Jahmyr Gibbs and those guys, they'd be just filling in because they're not playing over Barry, number one.
No, they're not.
Put Calvin Johnson out there with Amon-Ra St. Brown. Like, come on.
Right.
That wouldn't even be fair. But you're right. Both Barry Sanders and Calvin Johnson retired way too early in their career. And it's because the Lions were that bad. But you're right. You put Barry Sanders with that, maybe one of the greatest offensive lines of all time in that Cowboys line, and it's not even fair. I think Emmitt Smith, a great running back as he was, he just had to do a little bit better than average with that offensive line. I'm not saying he's average. I'm saying he just had to be a little bit better than average. And he's a good running back, but he's not meant to run behind that Detroit line. He's not a shifty guy like Barry was. Some of the stuff that Barry had to do just to gain 5 yards was insane. But Emmitt Smith didn't have to do that because that offensive line was so good.
The replays that we see of some of Barry Sanders' highlights in his moves and stuff are just ridiculous. Listen, I'm not trying to take anything away from what Emmitt Smith does because you still have to be good to get that many yards. Don't get me wrong. But I'm sorry, Barry was better. Barry Sanders was a better running back than Emmitt Smith. And I think Emmitt, listen, he's very sure of himself. He likes, I think Emmitt would have to be, a little bit kidding himself to say that he was better than Barry Sanders.
Just watch film.
Yeah, just watch the film. Like what Barry did. Like, I mean, the way he had guys swiveling back and forth was just unbelievable. And the way he got out of things was just unbelievable. He wasn't going to run you over, but you weren't going to touch him. I remember against the Bears a few times, they would have him wrapped around like 4 guys, and sometimes they wouldn't even touch him. Like they would just miss him. He would make him miss. And then the one time he had that Patriots guy going back and forth, running behind him. Like just unbelievable. And it's kind of sad, and you hate that for Lions fans that they couldn't see Barry Sanders play with a team that was any good. I know they made the playoffs once or twice with him there. But but Barry Sanders behind that Cowboys, whether we like Cowboys or not, we like to make fun of the Cowboys, but let's be honest, the early 90s Cowboys were stupid. They were ridiculous, and Barry Sanders being behind them would have been amazing to watch.
Well, it makes you want. They probably wouldn't have thrown the ball. Nearly. I mean, they didn't throw the ball. I mean, why would you have thrown the ball? You just give it to Barry 30 times a game. He's going to rush for 200 yards behind that offensive line. Michael Irvin might not even touch the ball as much as he had to, But yeah, those
right, exactly. So
those are some great what ifs right there for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So, listen, We'll come back. I know it's a little bit later, so we missed last week. Life got in the way a little bit. Tony decided to start a new job. I was out there coaching a little bit, so we got a little bit then. But we got our little NFL preview. We got to talk about some what ifs. We'll come back after the draft and we'll talk about who we like, what our teams did. It's so funny. We want to say winners and losers, but we'll talk about it because you really don't know winners and losers for at least a couple of years. But it's always fun to talk about. Right. And I think I saw something the other day. There's spring college football games going on. I think Michigan is 153 days away from playing. So, yeah, it's not close enough, but it's getting there, I guess.
Nobody's counting though. Yeah, right.
We get the draft that's coming up from Pittsburgh. They're going to have a good time there. So, listen, we'll come back after the draft. We'll break it all down. Tony, congratulations on the new job. And, we'll come back next week and get after it a little bit more. Until then, I'm Adam.
I'm Tony. Thanks for listening.
You have been listening to the Two Bald Guys Sports Podcast with Adam and Tony. Don't forget to check out our partnership with Happy Nuts.